Hello everyone, you are welcome to our mathematics class. Today I'm going to teach you division involving whole numbers, leaving a last remainder, where you are expected to write your answer in decimal form. In our last class I taught you how to write your answer in mixed fraction form when dealing with division involving whole numbers, leaving a last remainder. And of course I advised you to take that video lesson again and again and really learn very well how we write our answer in mixed fraction form, because the knowledge from there will also be used in this case where you are expected to write your answer in decimal form. So we're going straight on to the business of this class. On the board here I have 4 major steps as secrets, yes, because these are the steps you need to take. They are guidelines that will carry you through as you try to solve questions on this part of division where you write your answer in decimal form. Now let's go through these 4 points. If you're given a question to divide and you notice that this division will give you a last remainder, you're expected to write your answer in decimal. Now the first thing you need to do while solving is to get your answer in mixed fraction form. That's what point 1 is talking about. You should have gotten your answer in mixed fraction form and then put a decimal point between the quotient and the proper fraction part. I want to believe by now when you hear quotient you should know what it means. From our last class I explained all of this. That's the whole number of times the denominator divided the numerator. That's what we call the quotient. Then of course the proper fraction part is actually the fraction part you get when you write your answer in mixed fraction. You know, we usually have something like Q whole number, remainder, that is R over D. You know, something like that. Q is the quotient, the whole number of times, and R, the remainder. So you are expected to put a decimal point between the quotient and the proper fraction part. I gave you an example here to guide you or remind you of what I'm talking about here. I have 5 whole number 1 over 3. Let's assume you solve the question and you got something like that. 5 whole number 1 over 3. Point 1 is telling you to put a decimal point between that whole number, the quotient 5, and the fraction part. That's the proper fraction part, and that's what you see here. 5.1 over 3. Look at this one of 10 whole number 2 over 9. Put a decimal point between these 10, the quotient, the whole number. Put a decimal point between it and the proper fraction part 2 over 9. Okay, now once you've done that, alright, point 2, attach 0 to the right hand side of the numerator of the proper fraction and then divide by the denominator. What is this point 2 telling us? It's simple. After you put your decimal point between the whole number, the quotient, and the proper fraction part, go to that fraction. Attach 0 to the right hand side of the numerator. In this case 1 over 3. Come to the right hand side of the numerator here. Attach 0 on top, attach 0 there. So this becomes something like 10. In this case I have 10.2 over 9. Come to this to the right hand side. Attach 0 on the right hand side of that too. So you get something like 20 over 9. Okay, now I gave you an example here to help you understand what point 2 is talking about. I have 5.1 over 3. Of course, this is from 5 whole number 1 over 3. Put a point between the quotient and the fraction part. Then point 2 is telling you to attach 0, alright, to the right hand side of the numerator of that fraction. Putting this 0 is like 10 over 3 now. Then you divide it by the denominator 3. After dividing, point number 3 is now telling you obtain a remainder if it exists. Obtain a remainder if it exists, and once you've obtained that remainder, attach 0 again to that remainder and divide, just like you did here. You see, after dividing, here I have 10 over 3. If you divide this 10 over 3, you get 3 remainder 1. So point 3 is telling you, after you divide, you should get a remainder if the remainder exists. And then attach 0 to the remainder and divide again. Then lastly, point 4. You are expected to repeat what you did in point 3, repeat that step 3 until you get the required number of decimal digits, of decimal places that your answer is expected to be. Well, we've talked much about the grammar on the board here. talking about the steps. The steps is just to remind you, maybe anytime you come back to this, you're having challenge, you go through the step and, remind yourself of what you expected to do when you are reading your notes. Of course, you can hear from the video lesson because there is a voice talking to you. Well, solving the question will make these steps more clearer. That is why I have my question number 1 here. Evaluate 7 over 2. Leave your answer in 1 decimal place. Talking about getting your answer or leaving your answer in 1 decimal place is simply solve and then get only 1 decimal digit in the decimal part as your answer. I believe by now you don't have problems with decimals anymore. Talking about decimal numbers, because I've already taught you that under numbers and numeration, alright, Secret Foundation of Mathematics Part 1. Let's see how we solve this question. 7 over 2. So I'm going to write 7 over 2. This will give us what? So let's divide and see. Of course, I need 2 times table. I've taught you all of this in our previous classes, the last class and the one before it. So 7 divided by 2. I'll ask myself, how many times can 2 divide 7? In 2 times table, you will agree with me that 7 divided by 2 will be 3 whole times. But not exactly. There will be a remainder. Because that 3 whole times, 3 times 2 will give you 6. Then the remainder will be 1. You can find that out. I've taught you all of this, how to get the remainder, using the remainder formula. So here will give me remainder 1. Remainder 1. Remainder 1. Good. So do you see 7 divided by 2 is actually equal to 3 whole times. Take note, this remainder, why I wrote it, this is our last remainder. Because after I divided this 7, there is no other digit in the numerator to attach this 1 and divide. Are you getting it right? So that is our last remainder. So you can collect your answer in mixed fraction form now. That will give us 3 whole number, then 1 over 2. 1 over 2. Good. I've got my answer in mixed fraction form. The next thing is to put a decimal point between the quotient, the whole number, and the fraction part. That is what point 1 is telling us. And of course, I'm going to do that. This is going to be equal to 3.1 over 2. Now that I've put a decimal point between the quotient and the fraction part, I will attach 0 to the right hand side of the numerator. That's what point 2 is telling me. Attach 0, alright, to the right hand side of the numerator of the fraction. And the numerator of the fraction here is 1. So I've attached 0 there. I use black marker so that you see it clearly. Alright, at this point we are going to divide this fraction part now. Because what I have here is like 10 over 2. 3.10 over 2. So divide that 10 over 2 and see what you're going to get. This will be equal to, let's find out, 10 divided by 2. If you go to 2 times table, you will know that you will see that 10 divided by 2 will give you 5 exactly. There will be no remainder. 2 can divide 10 exactly and there will be no remainder. Because 2 can divide 10, you get 5 whole times, there will be no remainder. You move on and also divide the denominator 2 by itself. I've explained all of these in our past classes. 2 divided by 2, you get 1. We have to divide it because that 2 divided is 10 and there is no remainder. So my answer will now be 3, which is the whole part, the quotient 0.5 over 1. And 5 over 1 will give me 5. That's it. Let me conclude here. Therefore, 7 over 2. My answer is equal to, in decimal, 3.5. How many decimal digits do I have here? Just 1 decimal digit. That's what we mean by leaving your answer in 1 decimal place. This DP means decimal place. Did you enjoy this? It's very simple. Okay? It's just very simple. All we need to be able to handle this, we've actually covered most of them from our previous classes. Let us pick question number 2 and possibly 3 and see how we handle them. We are now set to take question number 2 and 3. Let's solve this, okay? Solve 72 divided by 7 and leave your answer in 3 decimal places. That is in 3 dp. Question 3. 5 over 13 is equal to dash in 2 decimal places. Let's go. Solution to question number 2. We are given 72 divided by 7. We have to get our answer in decimal form, and we should get it in 3 decimal places. Let's be fast in solving this. We'll start. 7 divided by 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1. Okay, from 7 times table, we are working with 7 times table now because the denominator is 7. And please take note of this. You can put it down. Look at it up. Any number divided by itself is equal to 1. Any number divided by itself is equal to what? 1. So 7 divided by 7 is 1. Exactly. There will be no remainder. So we'll move on to this 2. 2 divided by 7. Small number divided by bigger number is 0 remainder that small number 2. 0 remainder 2. Now remainder 2. Is there any digit in the numerator that I have not divided? I have 72 there. Is there any one of them that I have not divided? That's correct. There is none. I have divided everything in the numerator, 72. So that remainder is our last remainder. Let me put it here. Remainder 2. Remainder 2. Good. Now I can collect my answer in mixed fraction. This is equal to 10 whole number. 7 divided 72. 10 whole times. Remainder 2 over 7. So that will be 2 over 7. I've gotten my answer in mixed fraction. Remember, we are to get our answer in decimal form. 3 decimal. So I will quickly go and put my points between the whole number and the fraction part. So let's work it out and see. This will be equal to, let me bring my hand here, equal to 10.2 over 7. 10.2 over 7. And what do? Attach 0 to the numerator of the fraction. So this is 0, and then divide. I'll be writing what I will get, just straight on. This will be equal to, we have, this 10 is the whole number of parts, or whole number of times, the quotient. So I will just leave it aside. At the end of everything, I'll write it down as part of my answer. Let's just focus on the decimal part. 20 divided by 7. From 7 times table, you agree with me, let me remove this equal to. You agree with me that 7 can divide 20 2 times. So I'm going to write it 2 whole times. And then we will have remainder. Let me use this blue shade of marker. Remainder what? Let's find out. 2 times 7 is 14. 20 that I divided minus that 14 will give me 6. So it's going to be remainder 6. Remainder 6. Good. What do I do to the remainder? You attach 0 to the remainder. You are now repeating the same thing you did here. Once you get your remainder, attach 0. Divide by the denominator. Get your whole number of times the denominator will divide. Get the remainder if it exists. Attach 0 to the remainder. Divide by the denominator again. You continue repeating this until you get up to the 3 decimals. Is that okay? Since we are asked to get it in 3 decimals, we will actually solve for 4 decimals to see if the 4th decimal digit can be rounded up. I've taught you rounding off. So you see that all this knowledge, you keep making use of them as you are moving on. Okay, let's go. Please, these 2 whole time, take note. Let me underline it, please. It's going to be our first decimal digit. Are you following? Because when I divided this 20 over 7, the first answer I got is 2 whole number, remainder what? 6. That remainder, attach 0 to it. Let me take my hand up a bit. Attach 0, so you get something like 60. Divide it by 7 again. Let's see what we're going to get there. 60 divided by 7. Again, from 7 times table, you're going to find out that it is 8 times. Because 8 times 7 is 56. So it will be 8 times. 8 times 7 or 7 times 8 is 56. If you do 7 times 9, you will get 63, which is already more than what you're dividing. So you pick the smaller one. Let's go. 60 divided by 7 is going to give us 8 whole time. And then there will be remainder. Remainder. Of course, it's going to be remainder 4. So let me put remainder 4. I'm going to underline these whole times. because it's going to be my second decimal digit, which I obtained from the division of 60 over 7. Okay, so the remainder is 4. What do I do? I'll attach 0 again to the remainder and divide it by 7. So let us find out. 40 divided by 7. 40 divided by 7. Again, from 7 times, is going to go 5 times. It's going to go 5 times. Because 6 times now is 7 times. If you do 7 times 6 is 42, which is more than this 40 you are dividing. So you pick that of 7 times 5, which will give you 35. Okay, let's go. 40 divided by 7 is 5 times. Let me write it here. 5 times. There will be remainder. The remainder will still be 5. 5 remainder, 5. 5 remainder, 5. I'm going to underline this because it's part of my answer. This is the third decimal digit. And of course, I could have stopped here and write that my answer is 10.285. But I'm not going to stop there. I will do it up to the fourth decimal digit, so that I will find out if the fourth decimal digit can be rounded up. So let's do that. This is my remainder 5. I will attach 0 to it. Again, divide it by 7. If you divide 50 by 7, that will be 7 times. 7 times. Remainder 1. That 7 times is 49, because 7 times 7 is 49. You are dividing 50. If you do 7 times 8, you get 56. More than this 50 you are dividing already. So that 7 times is what you will go for. That's going to give us 7 whole times, then remainder 1. Remainder 1. I will stop here. I will not attach any 0 to this again. Let me underline this, because this will form our fourth decimal digit. I don't need to do for the fifth one, because we are asked to just get the answer in 3 decimals. Why I even did it up to the fourth decimal digit is to check if the fourth decimal can be rounded up. And of course, looking at this is 7. 7 can be rounded up to 5, so that this 5 becomes 6 in our final answer. Alright, let's conclude, please. Therefore, 72 divided by 7 is equal to 10 points. You know, it was 10 whole, so you pick it, 10 points. Now let's come to all these whole numbers we got in the decimal division. Are you following, right? That decimal part division. The first one is 2, so I'll pick it 2. The second one is 8, I'll pick it 8. The third one is 5, I'll pick it 5. And then the fourth one is 7. But our answer is to be in 3 decimal places. So this will now be equal to 10.28. You have to round off from 7 to 5. Are you getting it? In fact, let me show a calculation here. You round off from 7 to 5. So I'll do plus 1 here. Please watch this in plus 1. I've taught you rounding up and rounding down before. Our answer is to be in 3 decimals. So even if I brought out 4 decimal digits here, it is the 3 decimal digit I'm interested in. Now, since the fourth one is up to 5, and even more than 5, you round up by adding 1 to this 5. And that makes it 6. And this is my answer. 10.286. Wow, I took my time to show you the calculation here. Like I've always said, all these things is for your good, because you're expected to still come back to this and revise. Let's go to our last question, the solution. This is 5 over 13. I'll be fast in solving this. 5 over 13, we are to get our answer in how many decimal places? In 2 decimal places. So we go. 5 over 13, small number divided by bigger number, is 0, remainder. Remainder what? The smaller number. So I'm going to write it 0 remainder, that smaller number 5. Good. So writing this in mixed fraction, my answer will be 0 whole number 5 over 13. And of course, 0 whole number, we don't actually bother ourselves with that 0. The answer is simply 5 over 13. But why I'm writing that 0 whole number is we are expected to put the answer in decimal. So the final answer in decimal will be 0 point something. So let us find out point what. Let's get the decimal digit part now. This is equal to, let me bring down my hand here. I'm going to put a decimal point between this zero whole number and then this fraction part. So this is 0.5 over 13. Then what do? I will attach 0 to this numerator. So this is now 0.50 over 13. So let's do the division and see. 50 divided by 13. How many times can 13 go into 50? Alright? Being guided by this first digit 1, if I multiply 13 by 4, that will give me 52. It's already greater than the 50 I'm dividing. So I'll bring my hand down. If I multiply 13 by 3, I'll get 39. And of course, 50 will be between 39 and 52. In 13 times table, you go for the smaller one, which is 13 times 3. Give me that 39. So we go, 50 divided by 13 will be 3 times. So I'll write it, it's going to be 3 whole times. This is my first decimal digits. That will be part of my answer, so I'll underline it. That 3 whole time, there is a remainder. So I'll write remainder. Let's find out the remainder, please. Remember that 3 whole times will give you 3 times 13, 39. Then what you divided, 50 minus 39. 50 minus 39 will give us what? That will give us 11, is that not so? 50 minus 39. The remainder will be 11. So I'm going to put remainder 11 here. And what do? I'm going to attach 0. Of course, that 11 will be divided by 7, you know. But you need to attach 0 to the remainder. Because whenever you get the remainder, you attach 0 and divide again by the divisor. You continue dividing to get the required number of decimal places. We are to solve this in 2 decimal. I've gotten the first decimal digit. So we go. I'm going to do 100. This is over 13, please. 110 over 13, please. The denominator is 13. So I'm going to do 110 divided by 13. Let's find out how many whole time. How many times can 13 go into 110? If I said, okay, I should do it 8 times. 8 times 13 will give me what? Because you have 8 times 3, 24, right? 4 carry 2. 8 times 1 is 8 plus the 2 is 10. So you get 104. That is 13 times 8. Let's check for 13 times 9 and see what we'll get. 13 times 9. 9 times this 3 is 27. So you have 7 you move to. 9 times this 1 is going to give you 9 plus that 2. You get 11. So that will be 117. 117 is greater than this 110. So you pick the smaller one. 110 will actually be between 104 and 117 in 13 times table. We'll go for the smaller one, which is 8 whole times. 110 divided by 13 is 8 whole times. But not exactly, there will be remainder. Remainder what? This 8 whole time will be part of my answer, so I am going to underline it as my second decimal digit. Remember that 8 whole times, to get your remainder, you do what you divided. Let me just show you, but I'll still wipe it. Remainder will be what you divided, which is 110, minus the whole number of times, which is 8, times what you use in dividing, which is 13. And you know that 8 times 13 will give you, okay, 110 minus 8 times 13 will give you 104. So if you do 110 minus 104, what will be your remainder? Your remainder will be 6. So this will be remainder 6. Remainder 6. Okay, we are rounding off. What do we do with that remainder 6? I will attach 0 there. I will attach 0 and then divide it by the denominator 13 again. The reason why I want to do this third part now of the decimal digit is because I want to get my answer in 2 decimal places. So I need to do this division up to 3 times. So that the third decimal digit, I'll find out whether it can be rounded up or not. I did it here, you know. So let us go. 60 divided by 13. How many times can 13 divide 60? If you said, okay, let's check for 5 times. 5 times will be 65. Because 5 times 13 is 65, which is more than the 60 we are dividing. So you bring your hand down to 4 times 13. 4 times 13 is going to give us 52. Good. Now you see that 13 times 4, or 4 times 13, is 52. And then 13 times 5 is 65. 60, which we are dividing here, is between 52 and 65 in 13 times table. So again, we go for the smaller one, which is that 4 times. So 60 divided by 13 will give you 4 whole times. I'm going to double underline this because this 4 will be part of my decimal digit. Part of my decimal place value, as the case might be. But I've told you why I did this particular third division. Is to help me find out whether this 4 is up to rounding up or rounding down. Because this question asks us to get our answer in 2 decimal places. I could have stopped at this 8, which is the second decimal digit. But I have to check for the third decimal digit if it will give me a number that I'll have to round up or round down. And I've gotten this, 13 can divide 60 4 times. That 4 times will give you 52, so the remainder will be 8. But let me show the remainder, even if it's not necessary anyway, remainder 8. But I don't need that remainder 8 already. This is what I'm interested in, this 4. Now I am done. I can now collect my answer. Therefore, 5 divided by 13 is equal to 0. We have this 3, 8, 4. Good. Now I am to get my answer into decimal place. So I need this 3 and 8. Because this is the first decimal digit or first decimal place, and this is the second decimal digit or second decimal place, alright? Now I will check this third decimal digit. This 4, is it up to 5? Because that is what will help you know whether you are rounding up or rounding down. And of course, as you can see, this 4 is less than 5. So you round it down. And how do you round down? Just change it to 0 and it goes off. Therefore, my answer will be equal to 0.38. Answer. Here, I can just cancel this in rounding down because it's not up to 5. So you just make it 0. And of course, 0.380 is the same as 0.38. This is how we solve this problem. And of course, you see what I did here. This third question, when we solved the decimal digit part, the third decimal was not up to 5, so I rounded down. For solution to number 2, we were to get our answer in 3 decimal places. You have to solve up to 4 decimal digits. We got 7 in the 4th decimal digit. It's up to 5, 7 is more than 5 already, so I rounded up to this 5 by adding 1 to it. And that gave me 10.286. But this one, we have to round down. You know the reason already. In our previous classes, under numbers and numeration, I think part 6 of it or so, I've already taught you rounding up and rounding down. Alright, we are done with division involving whole numbers, leaving a last remainder where you are expected to get your answer in decimal form. If you have any question, you can rewatch the video lesson. Perhaps your answer can be seen there. But then, if you feel like you couldn't find the answer in the video lesson, of course, you can always send us your question and you will get a response. But if you think you don't understand everything that you've been taught so far, because we've treated section 1 and section 2 of this division. Division of whole numbers without remainder, division of whole numbers with remainder, which of course we treated 2 parts of it. When you are to get your answer, maybe in fraction, and when you are required to get your answer in decimal. So if you think you understood all the things I've taught you so far under division, below the lesson notes of this video lesson, you have your quiz to take. The quiz, there are 10 questions. And of course, your target score is 10 over 10. So try it out and see how many of the questions you can score. Don't give up. If you don't score up to 10, make sure you keep taking it until you can be able to score 10 over 10. In our next class, I'll be taking you to section 3. That's the third section of division. We are going to learn how you can divide decimal numbers using whole numbers, and how you can divide decimal numbers using decimals. So that's what you have on top, okay? That is what I'll be teaching you in our next class.